In this video we will look at all of the SMGs in Mass Effect Andromeda as well as the augments and mods to use in them to find the best SMG for you and your playstyle. Non-automatic pistols will be covered in a separate video to keep the workload manageable. Even without that, pistols and SMGs are two very different beasts, just under a single type. Remember folks, if you enjoyed these field test and showcase videos, be sure to hit that like button. It lets me know what you want to see, and if you haven't already, maybe think about subscribing to keep informed on everything Mass Effect Andromeda. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. A good SMG is supposed to be light and fire small calibre rounds but at blazing fast speeds. It's a power user's automatic weapon and in some cases can be the only damn weapon you will ever need. There are some crazy combinations out there, lots of which utilise a very fickle and often disappointing behaviour augment to great effect. I'm going to test a whole lot of combinations and see what works. Each weapon will be looked at in multiple ways, for people who just want a cool gun to power users who need something light between powered recharges. If you are after an armour specific weapon, then think about going for a shotgun. They're in the same range class and naturally lean towards armour penetration. Each SMG will be tested at rank 2 on normal difficulty with skills in pistols max, combat fitness max and team support max. It should be noted that while the skill life support in team support will be taken, it won't provide its great effect due to it requiring a tech power to utilise. This will better emulate the passive regen provided for those using the bioconverter who do not wish to use tech powers. As tech and Bartic power users will be the majority for SMG use, points will be spent in Bartics to gain the adept profile at rank 1 to avoid soldier weapon damage perks. No other skill points will be spent. The guns tested in this video are the Charger, Hurricane, Hornet, Rozerad and the Equalizer. The Charger is an interesting one. Its damage is low, which wouldn't be so bad if its rate of fire was super high, but it's not really. It's on the high side of medium for an SMG at 650. There's faster out there with higher damage. Its primary redeeming features are clip size and ammo capacity at 70 and 514. The accuracy is a shoddy 52 with a medium weight of 11. With its clip size being pretty good and ammo reserves also substantial, we can focus our augmentation efforts on the damage and accuracy using the slot that would normally be reserved for vintage or bio and slot in a seeking plasma to fix the accuracy and potentially help with the damage as well as a double mod extension. We'll try 2 more builds, one with electrical conduits and another with beam emitter to see how that affects both accuracy and damage on each target type. Unfortunately, this is only a 2-slot augment weapon with a bunch of flaws, so if you have the cryo perk for an extra augment slot, then you can fit in a special augment to either fill a percentage of the clip on shield break or biotic power boost on full clip, whatever is best for you. For mods here, I'm generally going to be leaving out melee optimised for most builds, so put it instead of the scope if you wish to not have a scope as a you never know, I might melee a bitch at some point type mod. The vanilla Charger, as you've seen in the background up until this point, is just awful, not even remotely usable, and while Seeking Plasma System Charger is certainly better, it really doesn't do all that much either. It's not really worth the materials. The electrical conduit however was fairly outstanding. It took down both shielded and normal troops with a very good speed. They just seemed to melt. It was a lot of fun and made quick work of the camps. The reload speed is impressive also. Easily quick enough with a big enough clip to not need a heatsink or bioconverter. You are likely to use this around ammo pods, so should be all good. The beam emitter one though was just awful. It did less damage than the vanilla version. I thought this may be due to the beam possibly being good against armour, so just in case I found a fiend and rumbled its face in, but the beam emitter wasn't responsible for that. It was god awful there too. The Seeking Plasma was better but still terrible, and the electrical conduits was the best on that too. So if you are to get a Charger, which isn't really advised as it's about the worst SMG, you should definitely go with the electrical conduits and double mod extension. The performance here with the electrical conduits gives me hope for the others. The Hurricane looks like a real contender here with the lowest 33 damage but a super high, almost highest in its category rate of fire of 925. Its clip size and ammo capacity are medium at 56 and 360, but with that crazy rate of fire won't last all that long. The accuracy is bad at 52, so needs fixing, and the weight is very hefty at 18, being heavier than the lightest assault rifle. Damage isn't too much of an issue with the Hurricane due to its rate of fire, but the accuracy and ammunition are big issues. Due to this, I would suggest using either a bioconverter or vintage heatsink. The adepts out there would benefit from the vintage heatsink due to using it intermittently between powers. This is also true for any heavy power user. But if you are a tech power user, you may prefer to use a bioconverter, as having life support in the team support skill will negate any health consumption from the converter when you use your tech powers. For this test we will use a bioconverter due to not using any powers. A double mod slot will also be required. Electrical conduits will make an appearance too, with a shield bypass stackable augment finish. The vanilla Hurricane proved to be almost as good as the best equipped charger, dealing very nice damage with a slightly longer reload time. The bioconverter and electrical conduit version, however, was just pure beast mode, melting those shielded kets so quickly, killing an anointed almost before their sonnet was able to spin up. It's worth noting that the electrical conduit guns don't just work well on shields but also remnant, giving them a better rounded use. As with what I expect all of these SMGs to be like, these just aren't acceptable for armoured targets, at least not Fiend level and above. Talks don't take long to down though. This is a very acceptable anti-shield weapon as well as a good all-round weapon for power users. Okay, so the Hornet is one of the SMGs I've really been looking forward to testing. Its damage is somewhat beastly 79 with the highest of all weapons rate of fire of 950. This would be absolutely unstoppable if it was fully automatic, but it is in fact a burst weapon, which is where the balance comes in. With a quick trigger finger and that rate of fire, however, this could potentially be as good. The clip size is a minuscule 34 for such a fast weapon with ammo reserves of 246. How this performs at taking down enemies will define whether this could be useful for a non-power using player. If it takes most of the clip for a standard ket, I'm not sure it would be of use. But for a power user to use between powers, it has great potential. The accuracies are not horrendous 58, which at short range should be satisfactory with a nice medium weight of 11. Currently, in the testing, I'm on the lines of comparing this to the Hurricane as the bar. A vintage heatsink I believe would be the best choice for most power users except for heavy tech users due to small clip size and high rate of fire, burning through all but a tech user's health in seconds if using the bioconverter. Two tests will be performed, the first being a vintage heatsink, double mod extension and shield bypass, and second with a bioconverter, double mod extension and electrical conduits to get a full view of its power. I was surprised by the results of this field test. The vanilla version of the weapon, and in case you're unsure, by vanilla I mean no augments, no mods. The vanilla version was a nice powerful weapon. It's as damaging as a vanilla Hurricane at damn near half the weight. Despite its accuracy rating, it's surprisingly accurate also, more so than the rating would suggest, hitting and doing great damage at medium and close range. This gun feels like a tiny Valkyrie, which is pretty much what it is, and it really isn't much less powerful. The vintage bypass build proved to be a nice weapon, a far more precise offering than the Hurricane, though kind of equal in power. Headshots are more than doable in close and low medium range, but I will say for this weapon to be effective you do need those headshots. Without the headshots it is lacking. The clip size is actually not bad for a power user, but if you are not a heavy power user, a bioconverter is a must with this weapon. The bioconduit build, however, was fairly awful. The electrical conduit augment lowered the damage a lot, and even with its advantage on shields, did far less damage than without. This was both surprising but also kinda not, as my experience with the electrical conduit augment has shown it either has its own flat damage, which overrides the weapons, or it has some funky equation which favours low damage far more. The gun is ruined with that augment, so just avoid it for this weapon. Because of this outcome I decided to do a third, fourth and fifth build with Seeking Plasma for one, Plasma Charge for another and Seeking Plasma with Plasma Charge for the last. See how they perform versus a standard projectile type. Interestingly, the Bio-Seeking did its usual effect of aiding the accuracy and slowing the projectile, but also turned the Hornet into a single shot weapon with no automatic fire. This lowered the damage of each trigger pull, as while the singular projectile was more powerful, there was only one and not the usual triple burst. This build is ineffective and pointless. The vintage plasma build proved equally ineffective. While increasing the damage very slightly, it also turned it to a 1 projectile by default, and 3 with the charge that sprays out instead of all being in the same hit point. The AoE aspect was good on one specific situation where 4 wraiths were gathered, but other than that it was ineffective. The Seeking Charge build was probably the worst of the 3. The projectile was singular, it was slow, travelled in a straight line at least, improved the accuracy, the charge system was overridden by seeking plasma system, which all resulted in less damage than a seeking on its own. The short and curlies are that if you wish for a precision SMG, go with the Hornet, but no fancy dongles, just a vintage or bio, a double mod extension and kinetic coil or shield bypass and you're golden. The Rozerad is a very interesting weapon, kept designed with influences and technology from an unknown race, that allows its rate of fire to increase with every bullet fired in succession. This, dependent on the hard cap, or even if there is a cap of the rate of fire it can reach, could potentially be the most powerful weapon in the game, using the same method as with the Sonnet, where I augmented and skilled myself to such a degree that I could indefinitely hold down the trigger and never stop firing. I'll be attempting to find out just how fast this gun can fire. I'll be doing this using a bioconverter. 2 tests. The first build will use a bioconverter and electrical conduits with a double mod extension shield bypass. The second build will consist of a bioconverter, double mod extension and 2 anti-armor modules. You may be able to tell where that second will be going as part of the test. The tests were not fully what I expected. The vanilla test showed potential, but a generally medium power gun. Nothing special, almost like a spin-up mechanic that kind of wastes ammo. The first build with the bioconverter and the electrical conduit, however, was just beautiful. It did as I had hoped and kept an endless uninterrupted stream that on full power melted through all normal and shielded enemies faster than I've ever seen before. My first attempt ended in death as I wasn't paying close enough attention to my health. Once I focused on keeping my shield mostly intact, however, it was just insane. I could permanently keep up the stream. If I took to cover to recover my shields, preventing extra damage to my health, the team support skills and any other regeneration built-in passives kept me for 45% health on a constant basis. There is definitely a cap on the rate of fire, but at a guess, it's higher than any other weapon, as provided you are very good aim, Anointed will go down in less than a second. It takes a little getting used to as the instability drives the cursor up, but if you make your way towards you on your mouse mat and then jam the mouse to the very top every time you need to reset, you can do it indefinitely and fairly well. Against the Fiend, the top damage seemed a little less than an Ubered up Darn, so it's not worth the trouble there, but for a camp of normal shielded enemies, this is just insane. My hopes were high against armoured targets with a conduit free version, but unfortunately, the second build, while instant regen of the mag, it did reset the rate of fire. I decided to then try every other augment for behaviour, which included the plasma charge, seeking plasma, plasma charge with the seeking plasma, and then the beam emitter. Unfortunately, all of these reset the rate of fire when the clip empties and the bioconverter reloads. But yeah, the electrical conduit version is just epic. Like the Sonnet, this gets tedious fast, but it's still very cool and fun to have a little play around with, meaning this won't be a top pick, at least it won't until I tried it against an architect. And that brings us to the Equalizer, the remnant SMG. At a glance of the stats, it appears to be a wonderfully balanced weapon. Its damage is a nice 51, its rate of fire is the lowest if you don't count the weirdness of the Rozerad, but at 600 it's pretty good for the damage. The max clip size is an adequate 52 with the remnants painted built-in heatsink making an appearance. Its accuracy as expected is the highest of the lot at 75 with a weight on the high side at 15. This gun doesn't really have any problems to fix, but we know how nicely the bioconverter goes with the built-in heatsink from the assault rifle tests, so that could be a great addition if you have the required health regeneration. For power users however, that is not at all needed, and most may prefer, especially Insanity players, a shield oscillator to give 25% shields on clip empty as a little extra. Or you could just stack it full of damage buffs. But without testing, I'd definitely say electrical conduits could be a great augment on this one, so let's try 2 builds. The first, bioconverter electrical conduits and double mod extension, and the second, double mod extension and 2 kinetic coils. The vanilla is okay, its damage is great but its range is infuriating. The Equalizer is a function that diminishes power massively after about 20 yards, like doing no damage at all at about 25. This makes this gun almost unusable for me in that state, but the range can be fixed via a few different augments, namely electrical conduits and seeking a plasma. The first build with bioconverter and electrical conduits was just fantastic. Super damage, getting headshots and shielded folk kills them super fast. I felt the rate of fire and damage are just about perfect on this weapon, wasn't all that bad on the target either. The second build was also great in every respect but the range. it dropping off so close makes for a bad time, to the point I would only use this gun with the electrical conduit augment. The bioconverter is not at all a must either, as the clip is satisfactory and will recharge while you use your powers, so for power users, go for the shield oscillator, or maybe a consumable booster, or just power boosters. Just ensure you get the electrical conduits for it and you'll be happy. As an extra, a number of views have mentioned trying the Equalizer with the Seeking Plasma system, so I tried one more field test using the bioconverter, Seeking Plasma and Dub Mod extension. I felt it was a fine weapon and its damage was very close to that of the electrical conduits, but its slow rounds made hitting moving targets very problematic. The electrical conduits is far more responsive. Its redeeming feature is the extended range over the electrical conduits. It does do high damage at long range and is rather useful, more so than conduits for shooting aimlessly over cover, but I still think the electrical conduits build has the edge, as at the range that the Seeking becomes better is the range you generally use a different gun. If you want a one size fits all, the Seeking may be better as it has the extra range. It didn't appear to be any better at armoured targets than the conduits, but was worse at shielded. So my top picks are nice and simple. If you want a shield destroying beast of a weapon that is fun and will do you proud, go for the Equalizer with electrical conduits. It is very close to the Hurricane but pulls ahead just a little, and with the added bonus of the built-in heatsink allowing for great customization makes it a fairly easy choice. That being said, a lot of the choices in this game are down to preference, so if you prefer the Hurricane then go with that, but ensure to pack it with an electrical conduit augment. The Equalizer with electrical conduits is also the all-round one weapon master. The just for fun yet tedious after a short time pick is the Rozerad with bioconverter and electrical conduits for the one trigger pull for an hour type playstyle. And the last one is for a tactical precision device, the M25 Hornet. This gun with no fancy bells and whistles other than a bioconverter or vintage heatsink will do you proud if you like to run around SAS style capping the odd headshot between powers. You may have noticed that in the top picks I was vague over the augments. Other than the ones I mentioned there as must-haves, the rest are dependent on your playstyle. If you are a power user, then a vintage heatsink is great, it recharges while you use your powers. If you are tech savvy and have points in team support, specifically the life support option, then bioconverter is beast mode. And on the picks that don't require one of those, then you'll have a number of choices. If Insanity player, go for the shield oscillator for the 25% shield every time the clip runs empty, or if you are a power user, think about using a power booster that increases power damage by 20% when your clip is full. There are many more special augments, look through them to find what's best for you. Due to my level in the game, all pistol mods used are level 5 and are the standard version of that mod. When crafting your personal build, I would suggest taking into account whether a negative attribute on the uncommon variation actually impacts you and may provide the opportunity for a slightly higher gain on the base buff. Thank you all for watching. I hope this field test SMG showcase thingamabob has helped you better understand your choices in SMGs. Splitting up pistols allowed me to go far more in depth than even the assault rifles, but don't worry, normal pistols is next. If you have any favourite builds or suggestions for testing, put them in the comments and I will add them to the video. I'll be testing all day tomorrow, so get them in as soon as possible so I can do them before editing. If you are on Twitter, well, I am too at Zane's World. The link is in the description, and if enough of you awesome people follow me on Twitter, I can start using that as a means to ask your opinions on builds and more for upcoming videos, to better craft them into something you'll enjoy. If this video has been of help, be sure to hit that like button and maybe think about subscribing if you haven't already. If the video infuriated you, then be sure to hit the dislike button and tell me why I'm a bit of a tart in the comments. It's the only way I'll learn. Have an awesome day, folks.